Mar Menor is the largest saltwater lagoon in Europe. Stretching across 135 square kilometres, it could be an idyllic setting if it wasn't massively polluted. Victoria has lived near its banks for the last 50 years. She says nowadays she wouldn't dream of taking a dip in the water.
The water used to be clear, clean. There were seahorses in it. It used to be a sea full of life, but now it's dead.
This beach may look relatively clean, but Victoria shows us a place where the sea is seriously contaminated.
Everything is full of seaweed. It stinks of rotten eggs. Nothing's been done about this. Correction, something has been done. They've destroyed the ecosystem.
Campaigners believe the change in the ecosystem is due to urban pollution, above all intensive agriculture. When seaweed becomes too dense, it stops sunlight getting through, and it's impossible for other vegetation to produce oxygen. In recent years, a lack of oxygen has killed thousands of fish. In 2016, 80% of the underwater vegetation was found to be dead. To prevent any more ecological destruction, José and his colleague regularly patrol the Mar Menor.
¿Cuánto tenemos de visibilidad?
104 centimetres.
Every week, these researchers monitor the quality of the water. They're particularly worried about the area of the lagoon close to the mouth of the Albujon.
Es el punto más lejano del Mediterráneo.
This is the furthest point away from the Mediterranean. It's a sensitive area because there's hardly any currents and the water doesn't circulate, so water tends to stagnate.
In the laboratory, the analysis is irrefutable.
You can see here the levels of the concentrations in nutrients at the Albujon. It should be at a maximum of 1.8 milligrams per litre, but here it's at 4.5, which is 3 times more than normal.
Environmentalists believe as much as 5 tons of nitrates are discharged in the area on some days.
Hi Anna, what are the results of the nitrate analysis?
The concentrations are tad high as compared to the control water.
The nitrates come from the 60,000 hectares of farming land surrounding the Mar Menor. 20% of the region's GDP comes from the agricultural sector. Vicente is a farmer, and he feels his profession has acquired an unfair image here.
We're treated like criminals. On some parts of the coast, there's even what you would call graffiti, saying, "Murderous farmers, criminal farmers."
To reduce the impact of agriculture, the region's farmers are contributing €100,000 to a research project. Scientists will explore whether salt water from polluted underground reservoirs can be collected and denitrified. First, they desalinate the water since salt retains nitrates. They then pour the brine into this tank.
Hi Vicente, how are you? We use copious amounts of lemon or citrus tree branches, this size roughly. When the wood gets wet, it lets out carbon, which frees a lot of microorganisms that are feeding on the nitrates present in the brine and eliminates them naturally. Depending on the temperatures, we can eliminate between 75% and 90% of the nitrates.
If used on a larger scale, this procedure will produce huge volumes of brine, and no one yet knows where that could be discharged without damaging the environment. In the meantime, the Mar Menor has become the first ecosystem in Europe to be considered a legal entity. At the University of Murcia, Teresa Vicente pioneered a battle to see the lagoon acquire the right to be protected, preserved and restored.
The lagoon now has a legal status protected by the law. For the first time, the ecosystem of the Mar Menor has rights and is protected in the way that the law protects individuals and companies.
Any citizen or legal entity can now file a lawsuit on behalf of the Mar Menor to defend it. And a council composed of environmentalists, politicians and farmers was also set up to ensure the ecosystem is protected.
The big agricultural corporations were also included in the law so that their voices could be heard. But they need to understand that they can't just do what they want. The Mar Menor has rights, and they need to be respected.
This new law has given locals fresh hope that the lagoon can be returned to its former glory. And yet, researchers estimate it will take at least 20 years for the ecosystem to be regenerated.